He smiled for the cameras, champagne glass in hand, while Hollywood stars circled around him like moths to a flame. His name graced Forbes' lists. His face appeared on magazine covers. In the eyes of the world, he was a visionary, a self-made billionaire with a golden touch. But beneath the designer suits and million-dollar grin, he was something far more dangerous. Behind every luxury yacht, there was a ship full of trafficked goods. Behind every corporate acquisition, a hidden trail of bribes and blood. And behind every party he hosted, a silent network of fear, manipulation, and death. He wasn't just rich. He was untouchable, until one single misstep began to unravel a criminal empire decades in the making. And he wasn't the only one. Across America there are billionaires who don't just bend the law, they rewrite it. Men who trade stocks by day and smuggle arms by night. Philanthropists funding orphanages while running human trafficking rings from offshore islands. Names you know, faces you trust. And today we're peeling back the curtain. Because in this episode we're diving deep into the secret lives of billionaire crime lords in America, and what you're about to hear might just change the way you look at wealth forever. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because the deeper we go into this story, the darker it gets. And trust me, you won't want to miss a second. It's easy to believe that crime has a face, rough, unshaven, hiding in alleyways. That criminals come from shadows, from desperation, from poverty. But the most powerful criminals in America don't hide in darkness. They walk red carpets. They fund political campaigns. They own newspapers, media companies, tech empires, even law enforcement in some cases. They sit in glass towers, overlooking cities their money helped build and destroy. These are men who understand the system better than anyone, because they helped design it. What separates them from the common drug dealer or gang leader is just one thing: money. Billionaires don't need to run from the law, they invite the law into their living rooms. They hire former prosecutors as legal counsel, ex-intelligence officers as private security. They donate to the very judges that one day might preside over their cases. And if that fails? Offshore accounts, shell corporations, disposable CEOs, silence payments, assassins dressed as accountants. The deeper you look, the clearer it becomes. The American dream has a dark twin. In today's investigation, we follow the stories of three billionaires, household names to some, total enigmas to others, each tied to secret criminal empires hiding in plain sight. From human trafficking to black market art, arms smuggling to financial fraud on a global scale, these men didn't just build their wealth, they buried the truth under it. And for decades no one dared to dig. Until now. Profile 1, the Silicon Valley Kingpin. By day, Lucas Grantham was hailed as a visionary. The press called him the mind behind the machine, the man who revolutionized artificial intelligence and ushered in a new era of automation. His company, Neurodyne Systems, was valued at over $72 billion. Tech magazines plastered his face on every cover. Politicians praised him. Universities awarded him honorary degrees. To the outside world, Lucas was a genius, the Steve Jobs of his generation. But behind the walls of his high-tech empire, a far darker reality was unfolding. Neurodyne wasn't just developing smart assistants or self-driving cars. Deep within their secure labs, engineers were quietly building predictive surveillance algorithms, tools capable of identifying high-risk individuals in crowds, based not on actions, but on behavior patterns, facial expressions, and micro-movements. It was the ultimate profiling weapon, and it was never meant for public use. Through shell corporations, Lucas sold this technology to foreign governments with known human rights violations. Regimes that used the software to crush dissent, target activists, and disappear journalists. Internally, whistleblowers tried to raise concerns. Emails leaked. One engineer went missing. Another died in what police called a sleepwalking accident, a fall from a 15-story Neurodyne apartment. Still nothing stuck. Lucas's legal team was airtight. His network of insiders reached deep into federal agencies. And when an independent journalist published a damning exposé, her story vanished within 48 hours, along with her online presence. Some claimed she was sued into silence. Others whispered something more sinister. It wasn't until 2022 that the public caught a glimpse of the truth. A group of hackers calling themselves Ghost Protocol breached Neurodyne's private servers. They released over 80 gigabytes of internal documents, revealing not only the surveillance contracts, but offshore payments, encrypted messages with government officials, and a private mercenary firm under Neurodyne's payroll. Lucas vanished days later. The media said he was taking a mental health break. But insiders knew better. His private jet never landed in Costa Rica. A burner passport was traced to Istanbul. Interpol briefly listed him as a person of interest, then quietly removed his name. To this day, Lucas Grantham is a ghost. His company restructured. His board disbanded. But his technology is still out there, evolving. And if what Ghost Protocol uncovered was only the tip of the iceberg, what's lurking beneath could be far worse. Profile 2, the real estate mogul turned trafficker. They called him the King of Miami. By his early 40s, Victor de la Cruz owned over 150 properties across Florida. Luxury condos, strip malls, private islands. He was a real estate icon, a rags-to-riches story celebrated in business magazines. But behind the marble floors and oceanfront facades, Victor's empire was built on something far more sinister than bricks and mortar. It started small, whispers of under-the-table deals, off-the-books labor, and shell companies funneling money offshore. Nothing unusual for South Florida. But the deeper investigators dug, the darker the picture became. Authorities stumbled onto Victor's real game by accident. In 2018, a routine DEA raid on a suspected smuggling ring turned up shipping manifests tied to one of Victor's properties. But instead of drugs, agents found something even more horrifying. Hidden rooms, blacked-out windows, and traces of recent occupation. Not tenants. Not squatters. People. Young women from Eastern Europe. Some underage. All undocumented. Lured with false job offers. Stripped of identification. Forced into compliance. Victor wasn't just laundering money. He was trafficking humans, using his sprawling real estate network as a cover for transporting and storing victims like inventory. He controlled every aspect of the pipeline: the recruiters overseas, the fake immigration lawyers, the landlords, the transporters. Victims were moved from property to property, never staying in one place for long enough to be traced. It was a modern slave trade, in the heart of one of America's wealthiest cities. But the most chilling part? Victor made sure his name never touched a single lease, deed, or contract. Everything was signed by shell companies, proxy buyers, or employees too scared to speak. When one brave survivor escaped and went to the authorities, her testimony opened the floodgates. But by then Victor had vanished. His assets were liquidated days before the investigation went public. His private yacht left a Fort Lauderdale marina in the middle of the night. Coast Guard surveillance lost track of it near the Cayman Islands. Some say he died at sea. Others say he bought a new identity and now lives like a ghost in Dubai or Macau, still trafficking, just smarter. What's certain is this: behind every luxury building, every pristine address could be a front, a fortress, a prison. And Victor de la Cruz proved you don't need to be a cartel kingpin to run an empire of fear. Just a smile, a suit, and a real estate license. Profile 3, the heiress who ran a murder-for-hire network. By day, she was the darling of New York's elite. Genevieve Langford, daughter of banking royalty, was a fixture on red carpets and charity galas. Harvard-educated, effortlessly poised, and always surrounded by flashing cameras, Genevieve seemed like the perfect mix of old money and modern brilliance. But no one suspected the truth. Beneath the designer gowns and carefully curated smiles lurked a killer. It started with whispers. Rumors of business rivals who met untimely deaths. Ex-lovers who vanished. Investigative reporters who suddenly dropped stories or disappeared altogether. But the Langford name had power and protection. It wasn't until a botched job in 2021 that things unraveled. A tech investor named Liam Hadley, a vocal critic of Langford's father's bank, was found dead in his penthouse. Staged to look like a robbery gone wrong. But something didn't sit right with the NYPD. The surveillance footage had been tampered with. And there were no signs of forced entry. The break came from an unlikely source, the hitman himself. Jason Maris, a former British mercenary, was arrested on unrelated charges. Desperate for a deal, he confessed, not just to Liam's murder but to 6 other hits, all ordered through an encrypted app, all paid in cryptocurrency, all tied to one mysterious client code name, Sapphire. Investigators traced the payments through a tangled web of offshore accounts and blockchain wallets. But one detail stood out: a matching IP address from a Langford-owned penthouse. Eventually, a cyber forensics team linked the account to Genevieve's personal laptop. Hidden inside a false drawer in her dressing room, beneath a velvet box of heirloom diamonds. She denied everything, of course. Claimed she'd been hacked. Accused the feds of targeting her because of her wealth. But the digital trail was airtight: voice memos, chat logs, payment records, even a chilling spreadsheet that listed names, fees, and estimated cleanup timelines. She had turned murder into a business. Efficient, cold, profitable. The motive? Power and protection. Every target had threatened her family's grip on legacy, money, or reputation. And Genevieve wasn't going to let anyone, not even blood relatives, tarnish the Langford name. The trial made headlines worldwide. But even behind bars, her influence lingered. 2 key witnesses recanted. 1 vanished. A juror was found to have accepted payment, though the judge declared a mistrial before sentencing could be passed. Today, Genevieve sits in a maximum security federal prison awaiting retrial. But insiders claim she still communicates with loyalists on the outside. That the app is still active. That Sapphire might have been just one of many aliases. She once said at a charity ball with a champagne glass in hand, "Legacy is everything. And sometimes, preserving it means making hard decisions." Now we know what she meant. What drives someone with everything, wealth, status, admiration, to descend into the darkest corners of human behavior? For most of us, crime is born of desperation. Poverty. Need. A lack of options. But for the ultra-rich, it's not about survival, it's about control. Psychologists studying high-net-worth offenders have uncovered a disturbing pattern. One where narcissism, entitlement, and detachment from consequences form a perfect storm. It's called high-functioning psychopathy, and it's frighteningly common among the elite. These individuals often score high on intelligence, charm, and ambition. But behind closed doors they lack empathy, view people as pawns, and see morality as flexible, a tool to manipulate, not to follow. And when they're caught, their reactions are telling: outrage, not remorse. Because in their minds they don't see themselves as criminals. They see themselves as victims of a world that dared to say no. In private interviews with incarcerated wealthy offenders, from corporate fraudsters to killers for hire, one phrase came up again and again: "I didn't think the rules applied to me." That mindset, that belief that money buys silence, that power erases guilt, is what allowed people like Vincent Morano, Elijah Crane, and Genevieve Langford to carry out their double lives for so long. And the scariest part? They're not alone. For every billionaire exposed, there may be 10 more hiding in plain sight. Hosting fundraisers, investing in startups, shaking hands with presidents, wearing tailored suits that conceal blood-stained ambition. Because the truth is chilling. Some of the most dangerous criminals in America don't live in the shadows. They live in penthouses. They fly private. And they smile for the cameras. If this story opened your eyes, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Crime Cortex AI. We dig deeper than the headlines to expose the dark underbelly of power. Stay curious, stay cautious, and always question the people who seem too perfect to be true.